Hey guys, thanks for joining. In this video, I'm going to make myself a new crosscut sled. My old one was pretty beat up and it needed to be retired. So in this one, it's going to be a quick, easy project. You can do this in about a day and it's very easy to follow along if you want to. So hope you learned something. Stay tuned. Thanks. Here's my old crosscut sled. You can see it's got a lot of play there. It's got paint on the side. It's just old. It needs to be retired. So here I am, gonna make a new one. Now this is just some scrap half-inch sheet plywood I had laying around. And rather than using something new, like any good woodworker, or at least I pretend to be, I use scraps. So I just finished cutting the base. For me it's about 2 foot by 2 foot, but cut whatever size you need for your project. Now I'm just cutting the fences. These are about 4 inches high each. I also doubled them up, so that way it comes to about 1 inch thick total. This just gives it some more stability and mass, and allows it just a little bit more durability. I'm also going to add a track in there for a stop block, which I'm going to show you later, so that's also why I doubled it up, to give me some room for that. Now just go ahead, clamp them up, let them sit for a few hours, and you'll be good to go. Now for your table saw, go ahead and measure the width of your miter channels. Mine is about 3/4 of an inch. For the runners, we're going to use hardwood. I had some oak scraps laying around, and here I am just cutting them up to fit. Now, I prefer making my own runners because each table saw is a little different. I know they're supposed to be standard, but they could be off just slightly, and anything you buy out of the box may not fit properly and give you play. Now, once you have them cut, go ahead and just do a dry test fit. Make sure they don't bind up. As you can see, mine is binding up just a little bit there on the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and sand that down. Now, you may need to do this multiple times, and that's okay. Just go ahead, take your time, make sure you get a nice, smooth operation. Once you've got that done, let's go ahead and line them up, and we're going to glue the base down to the runners. Just dab a little super glue on there because it'll dry fast and you won't have to hold it forever. Just press down firmly for about 10 seconds and you'll be good to go. Then just flip it over, drill and screw. Now I countersink the screws, make sure you do that because otherwise the heads of the screws are going to rub on the table saw. In the meantime, if you love listening to my voice, and honestly, who can blame you if you do, go ahead, like or comment below and subscribe if you already aren't subscribed. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now this isn't as smooth as I'd like, so what I'm actually going to do is put some paste wax on the bottom of it and also my table saw. And now it's time to attach the fences. I'm starting with the back fence. Now this isn't as important as getting it square and plumb like the front fence, but definitely take your time and do the best you can. Just do the same you did with the runners. Drill, screw, countersink, just like that. Go ahead and attach it with a bunch of screws. You don't have to overdo it here, but you definitely want more than 2. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to put a track into the front fence to accommodate a stop block. But before I put it into the front fence, I need to cut it to accommodate for the table saw blade. That way, when I'm cutting pieces, I don't have to worry about the blade hitting this track and causing a huge problem. Now, it goes without saying, always wear safety glasses, especially when you're cutting anything metal. Now, back to the project. I'm going to use a dado blade to notch out for the track, so here I am just measuring it out. Now, because this is a smaller table saw, I like to keep my dado blade as thin as possible while still getting some width to the cut. So here you can see me making multiple passes. If you've got a nice big industrial sized table saw, you can go hog wild and go with the widest dado blade possible. My miter track is 1.25 inches wide, so it looks like we're good to go now. Test fit it, and then go ahead and cut your first cut in the crosscut sled itself. Now the main reason I did that was to see exactly where the blade came through and to make sure my measurements for the track were correct. And that way the blade won't contact the track when I pass it through. I cut the other length of miter track off camera and then I attached it. And now it's time to attach the front fence. Now, I've done a lot of research trying to make a crosscut sled and watching much better woodworkers than me on YouTube make these, and they all tend to use the William Ing method. I'll give a very quick rundown of it, but I definitely recommend you watch it. I'm going to link it in the upper right corner. He describes it much better than I could possibly try. But basically, you have this known piece, and you make 4 cuts on it. Label the cuts A, B, C, and D, and you want to take off as little as possible on each one. Now, when you finally finish that, you're going to make one last 5th cut. And this 5th cut is going to be a strip, so not as little as possible. You want to cut a strip of wood off and label the ends A and B. Then take a digital caliper, hopefully you have one, and you're going to measure the ends, and you're going to compare those. And using a mathematical formula, you can calculate how far off your fence is. Using a little block and a clamp with a feeler gauge right there, you can then adjust your fence and get to where you need to get. I think when I started, I was a 1/16 of an inch off, which is pretty significant, but by the time I was done, I was well under a 1/64 of an inch, which is plenty good for what I do. Now, moving on, I also added this metal adhesive tape. I don't swear by this, but it is a good point of reference. I like to have them on there so I can just do a sanity check anytime I make a cut. So we're almost done, and we're almost on to that glass of scotch, which I can't wait for. But anyway, let's make the stop block. So grab another scrap piece of wood, use whatever you want here. I'm just, again, using some oak I had laying around, and just cut in the stop block. Now, in order to clamp this thing down, I have to notch out where the track is going to go. So that way when I tighten the knob, the track pulls against the C channel, which is embedded in the fence. Hopefully that makes sense. I said a lot of words, but I don't know, it made sense in my head. So, as you can see, I'm not very good with hand chiseling and carving. It's definitely a weak point for me. I need to practice, and I definitely want to practice at it. But just go ahead and take your time here. If you don't want to use this, you could use the dado blade again, or whatever else you want. Alright, go ahead, line up the track. We're going to drill a hole for the screw, and then we're going to attach the knob to the screw. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And that's it. Stop block complete. This was a quick video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, you know the drill, do whatever. Thanks for watching, and take care.